Hey everybody, welcome to etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the Thule TracRac TracONE ladder rack system here on our 2021 Ram 1500. So this is going to be an excellent way if you guys are wanting to go ahead, get the most out of your bed space that you can on your truck. Go ahead, throw a ladder rack system on it, start carrying all your heavy gear up on top. Now, the neighbor for this guy here today is actually going to be carrying 2 kayaks. So that's why I have these little foam blockers on here to give you guys an idea. Yes, you could go ahead and get them on there, but we actually already have a ladder on here that's taking up a little bit of room, and I think a lot of us are carrying a lot of different accessories, so kind of wanted to give you guys that look here of actually what it's probably going to be used for on a broader sense. But yeah, it's really straightforward. We do have an 800-pound capacity rating with this guy, which is excellent. So yeah, it's going to be holding up well to those bigger, bulkier items getting on here, even if they are heavy, which is great. It is nice and solid, which I love to see. And what's great about it, it is going to be an aluminum construction. However, you actually do have 2 coats of protection to go ahead and start protecting this guy, which is great. So you're getting overall corrosion protection, which is great, not just on the outside, on the inside as well. And then you do have a nice little clear laminate on top of it as well to go ahead and start protecting against scratches. Now with scratches, again, I think that's going to be your biggest enemy. When you're starting to throw up your heavier gear on here, you can find yourself nicking and gouging this. So if you really want it to look pretty for the years to come, just be a little gentle with it, right? Help it, get it off on here. Now, over the years, it's probably going to start having those nicks and dings, but what's great with that double coat, it's actually going to be resisting that corrosion. And of course, we have aluminum underneath as well, so it's not going to be prone to wasting away or rusting anytime soon. It is going to stay nice and solid for the years to come. Now, a couple things I really like about this system, you're going to come with these nice little load stoppers. Really, really easy to use. All you have to do, this little hand knob, pinch that off. That can let you slide it up, and then you get it butted up to your load, and then just tighten it down. It'll be very secure, which is great. That knob, nice too that I have a lot of ridges on it. Sometimes when you get those hand knobs, they're just hard to access. I like that I have a lot of contact there. Can really get it nice and tight. And of course it is utilizing the T-slot system we have in here. So if we do have any other T-slot accessories, we're gonna have an A-OK time getting them on here, which is great. So yeah, we can use those load stop, but we can throw almost anything on here. We're even talking like bike carriers. Now that might start getting crazy. You're definitely gonna have to start watching your height of the kind of accessories you want throw on here, but something like a J-style kayak carrier could be excellent. Really anything that can go ahead, start utilizing that T-slot to be nice and secure, is going to be a go-to. What's great too, A, it doesn't take too much time to get installed, but B, if you do want to take this off, it's pretty straightforward. All we have to do, actually back down both of these bolts here, and that can actually release these side clamps, and then can we walk this entire structure off, which is cool. So you can kind of keep it in the ladder rack form. You don't have to break it down all the way, and that way it's ready to walk right back onto your truck, cinch it down, and start hauling. Well, talking about how easy it is to get installed, why don't we go ahead and see how we can do that. Now to get it installed, it's going to be pretty straightforward. All we're going to need to do, loosely assemble our stands, as you guys are seeing here today. Really, really straightforward. All we need to do is go ahead and grab ourselves a hex wrench, a 7/32 hex wrench, and then we can go ahead and start loosely assembling all of our bolts. Here at the bottom, I'd go ahead and get those guys nice and tight for yourself. And one thing I might suggest, you might want to pick up yourself a little bit of anti-seize. Now we have some available here at etrailer.com. Now it's not going to be the end of the world, especially the bolts down here, but if you want to make sure that you don't have any kind of seizement, anytime of these guys welding themselves to each other, galling and getting locked in place, go ahead and put that anti-seize on there. That way, if we do need to take off our top rail, just makes it a little bit easier. Now the anti-seize is going to be more important in some of our bolts later, but it can be helpful for these top guys. But once we have it loosely assembled, we simply need to go ahead and bring ourselves on the inside of our vehicle and just start setting it here on the side. So I've already gone ahead, put on our rubber kind of pads as well. And then I just want to set both of my sides in really quick. And then just simply set them on there, pushing it up against it until we're nice and locked out. And then we need to go ahead and grab on our clamps to go ahead and start getting attached to our side rail. So we're just going to take a little anti-seize here and put it on there, as we don't want it seizing in our threads. And then I simply want to walk up. I want to feel underneath here, making sure I'm not going to be interacting with anything on the underside. Of course, checking our rubber placement as well to make sure it's doing a good job of covering the base here of our stands. But then we want to take our guy, simply place it just like so. You can feel there's nothing there that's going to be interacting badly with me. We will need our hat here, this little guy. This little blocker is going to be sitting there and getting cinched up. But I'm going to run this just a little bit until I have the room to go ahead and throw it on there. Now with that little bit of thread exposed, I can go ahead, throw on my topper, and run it all the way up until we're cinched up. As we get near the top, I just want to double check it, make sure it's not turning too badly, as I do want it nice and flush there on that side rail. I can go ahead and push it up all the way. Just a little bit more till we're nice and secure. Now, when talking about how we want to get this in place, we are going to have a couple things to keep in mind. So for our clamps in the rear, you're going to need about 7-inch minimum spacing between the two. Normally, you're going to have a lot of extra room here. Not too much happening here on your side panels. Now, towards the front is going to be a different story, though. We only have a minimum requirement about 3 inches. And the reason for that, you have a lot more stuff happening here in the side rail. So a lot less easy purchases for ourselves. We are going to have to find ourselves a little closer. But what that can end up doing to yourself is kind of compressing your side rail here, as we're seeing. So we have a gap between the plastic topper here of our side rail and the metal underneath. So you can see that's kind of pulling that in, kind of filling that gap for ourselves. So do keep in mind, you have a little compression here. So if you guys already have some not so looking good side rail caps, could potentially end up breaking them even more. But if they're in good order, you're just having compression, right? If we back those off, they should be in good working order, unless, of course, we keep this on here for 2 years straight. Then it's probably going to conform to kind of the pressure that we're putting on it. But otherwise, not going to be the end of the world for ourselves. Definitely something you have to consider. So talking about how we want to put our ladder rack on here. So our front one is going to be as much towards our cab as we can get, almost all the way into that bulwark, as you guys can see. Actually has a nice little cutout as well towards that front. Then you can go ahead and get it nice and cinched up to your bulwark. The second one, though, is going to be a little bit up to us. I like to go ahead and put it to the back as much as we can, albeit not interacting with our tailgate. Now I do have about 3/4 of an inch from our stake pocket here today, just to go ahead and make sure that we have that room between our tailgate. Really, really simple though. Set that up. The next thing we're going to need to do is actually set our ladder rack, or our rack length. So you guys can see here today we have a little bit of overhang on either side. Now that's going to be pretty manageable for ourselves though. To go ahead and start making sure we have it nice and aligned, I like starting in the back of the vehicle, kind of eyeballing it, but once I get it close, I'm just going to take my tape measure here, and that's going to put me, looks to be right at 4 inches from the inside of my post to the end of this side. Then go ahead, check my other side, and look at that. We're right in line with each other. So we don't actually have to do any adjustment. That's awesome. We just need to go ahead and grab our ratchet and our socket set one more time. And then we're gonna bring ourselves to the other side here. We're gonna have these little bolts, and we need to go ahead and tighten them up. So we just want to do one last little check on all of our bolts and connections to make sure we're nice and secure. But other than that, we're nice and installed. Well, now that we have it installed, I want to take a look at some of our dimensions here, see how we're interacting with our Ram 1500. So from the top of our corrugate here to the underside of our rack, that is going to give us 45 1/4 of an inch spacing there of clearance. So don't think we're gonna have too much trouble fitting all of our cargo needs here in the bed of our truck. Let's also go ahead and see how much height we're adding on to it overall. So from the corrugate to the top, that's putting you right at 47 inches. So that plus your load stoppers here can bring you to a total of 52 inches height extended to the bed of your truck. Now that is with your load stoppers, of course, and do keep in mind if you do have any of your bigger items that you're setting on top of your ladder rack here, that's also going to be increasing that height. So let's be careful when we are pulling this in the garage, or if you guys are going through those drive-throughs or anything like that. Let's make sure we are checking our height so we don't have any interaction there. Another big one though for us to check is going to be our spacing here between our cab and our ladder rack. So I'm going to go ahead, find this guy right here, and to the top of that corrugate to the very top of our ladder rack. Let me make sure I'm nice and aligned there. That is going to be putting you right under 5 inches or so. So about 4.5 inches for sure of clearance there between your cab and your ladder rack. That can be excellent. But a big one we're going to have to watch here is going to be our fin. So that's looking pretty good right there. Again, about 5 inches of clearance right there at that bend. And so you are getting about 2 inches of height between here. So that fin's about 3 inches off your roof. So you do have a little bit of clearance there. Now that might be an issue for some if you do have any kind of clamp on accessories. I know our neighbor here today is gonna be throwing on a kayak. So that's definitely something they're gonna have to watch and just make sure that we're not interacting that fin as we go and set our accessories on top of our ladder rack. Well, we went ahead and just threw on some kayaks to give you guys one last look at what you can do with this ladder rack system. Overall, I think it's really nice. Personally though, I kind of find it more for those weekend warriors. You know, what's nice about it, it isn't gonna take too much time to just walk those guys right off and store somewhere in the garage, which is really cool. We can keep this whole frame structure, right, other than just taking those clamps off and just set them inside. And that's great, like I said, for that on and off kind of action for ourselves. So people that don't primarily have their ladder racks all the time on their vehicle, that's kind of where I see this guy leaning into. Now there's a lot of ladder rack options out there. In my personal opinion, if you're looking for something like this that can really start maximizing like your recreational uses with your ladder rack system, highly recommend taking a look at the Yakima Outpost or the Yakima Overhaul systems. I'm a really big fan of that Overhaul system because you actually get adjustable heights for your ladder rack system. So why that's great, right? We can go ahead, have our kayaks as we're seeing it here today, but then maybe I don't want to take my kayaks out. I want to go ahead and bring a bunch of bikes with me. I can drop that down, put that bike rack carrier just a little bit lower where it's easier to load up, or for whatever reasons I might have to go ahead and lower or raise that system, I'll have the ability to. But the big thing for both of those for me is really the locking capabilities on it. We're actually going to be able to go ahead and secure our ladder rack to our vehicle. This, if somebody just has a ratchet and a hex socket set, they're going to be able to take it off in no time. Now, yeah, it's going to take them a little while, probably going to be a little loud, hard for them to do, but it just does have that missing security element that would really give us that peace of mind that we're looking for. Overall though, guys, it's still going to be an excellent ladder rack that can almost do anything you need it to with that 800 pounds capacity rating. I don't think we're going to have any trouble. Otherwise though, guys, I think that about does it for our look here today at the Thule TracRac TracONE ladder rack system on our 2021 Ram 1500. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.